Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Purpose, Profits, and Pixie Dust podcast. I am super excited for our guest today. I actually thought I had him on the show already, and then we discovered I had not. So, Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's probably because we spend so much time at Momentum and, talking. We're in the kind of stuff and we talk all the time. So, yeah, I'm glad to be here. This will be fun.
Yes, and Jeff shares everything. That's probably why he thought he'd already been on it, and I did too, because I'll post in this mutual Facebook group that we're in, and he's always a giver and responds and shares all of his knowledge, so I'm super excited for you all to meet him. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about him before we dive in. So Jeff is an international speaker and visual marketing consultant. He hosts the Social Media News Live show, which I was on a few weeks ago, so make sure you go back and listen to that episode as well, and podcast, and is also the head beard at Manly Pinterest Tips. Jeff has worked with and produced a wide range of content for various companies, including Amazon, Guy Kawasaki, Kim Garst, Social Media Examiner, and Tailwind, and I'm sure there's way more on there that you didn't even mention. So, Jeff, besides what I just said, tell us a little bit about you. How did you get started? You know, a little bit of the origin story. Everyone's always like, where do I start? But What would you like to share with us?
So I've been doing this kind of stuff for about 25 years because my son, so what happened is I started in doing website design, right? So I did that. I did those Flash websites. You remember back in the day? You can thank me later. But there were all those animations that took forever to load. Did that. Then I started I did a lot of video for clients. So I was doing a lot of corporate videos and taking things and recording things and editing them. And then my clients started to get on this thing called social media. And I thought, well, if they're on it, I need to be on it too. So I started a blog, and I was driving back from seeing our parents, and I was listening to this podcast. It was Social Media Marketing Podcast with Michael Stelzner, and he had this lady on it called named Cynthia Sanchez, who was talking about all this traffic she was getting because she was doing stuff on Pinterest. And I'm like, I need traffic. So I started using Pinterest, and it kind of took off. I wrote an article called Manly Pinterest Tips #1, because really back then it was really considered like the ladies' network for that. There's a lot of hair tutorials and art recipes on your nails kind of thing. Yes, yeah. Right. We used to say everything on Pinterest was in a mason jar, but well, then I did that, and it started driving traffic, and that post kind of went viral. And this is back in the Google Plus days when live video was just brand new, and it was like you could have your own show. And so I had my show with 4 other guys who were way more popular than me. But we got to interview people like Guy Kawasaki. That's where I met him. I was able to interview the producer of Pretty Woman and Under Siege, and it was just like this wild west of cool stuff you could get people on. That led to me eventually getting hired by Social Media Examiner to run their Pinterest, which led to Instagram. Me speaking there for about 5 years. I worked for them as a contractor, but really that was my big client for about 5 years. And then I left and started Social Media News Live and do stuff for Guy and produce podcasts and video and my branding. So it's a lot, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I love how, again, it was just kind of an organic, natural pivot to I just happened to be listening to this podcast one day, and they were talking about Pinterest. What if you hadn't listened to that podcast, right? Like, who knows what you could be doing right now? And
it's funny, like when you first start, you're like, your goal is to, you have these goals where you're like, okay, I want to speak on the stage at Social Media Marketing World. Well, then I did it, and for 5 years, and then that led to other opportunities, and it's amazing. And everybody goes like, oh, I wish I was that, but you look at somebody's where they started and then where they've been. Like, I was local. Like, I only did local things. Like, and people would argue with me about prices and well, my college kid, my son can do that. And it was just frustrating. And luckily for me, I got in with a group of people, and also the world opened up, and I was able to, okay, if you don't want to buy my services, the whole world might, and I was able to do yeah. And so that was really good. So I was very blessed that way to have that happen. So that was kind of the origin story.
I love that, because I feel like there's so many times we keep ourselves in this box and we forget that we have social media at our fingertips with billions of users all over the world. And I mean, I guess it depends on what your service is, but a lot of it can be anywhere across whatever country you're in, if not in other countries. The world is your oyster, right? Like, let's go.
Yeah. So, and it was cool because I was doing video projects, and one of the things California prices were different from Texas prices. They thought I was a steal. I was charging way more than I was locally. And so, those kind of things happen too. And I can see the same thing happening with AI and the stuff you'll be able to do now for businesses. But anyway.
That's such a great point. I never thought about that, with prices being different in other states and people having different perspectives on money from that reason, or for that reason. I love that. I definitely want to dive into AI and repurposing. Before we do that, still on the social media topic, with social media trends constantly shifting, how do you stay up to date with everything and ensure that your content, because I feel like you have great guests on your show, you're always talking about the things that are up and coming. Do you have any sort of, I don't even know if like plan is the right word, but like how do you stay up on all the things? You know what I mean?
So I have always loved reading, and so I read a lot. And one of the things that I have done that's helped me the most is I use a program called Feedly, which I am able to enter different websites in, and then it kind of gives me a summary, and I can go down through those and I read. I have set aside time every day that I go in and read and try to catch up. And even with AI, that's a whole nother kind of aspect of it. So I read a lot. Luckily, because I did so much with Social Media Examiner, I have a lot of friends in the space, so I can go like, hey, I heard this thing came out on Threads. Is it worth it? Should I be over there? Do you want to come on the show and talk about it? So there's a lot of also networking that has happened because of just how long. I'm old, Lindsay. I'm very old. And so it's networking. But that's one of the things for people. Don't ever burn bridges. Like, you never know. Like, I hadn't talked to Michael Stelzner probably 3 years, and 2 weeks ago he called me and said, hey, come on and be on the show. And then we just did a show, and it was just like nothing, I'd never worked for Guy, and I interviewed him, 15 years ago, and now I'm running his podcast for him. Like, there's always stuff. You just don't burn bridges, and always be helpful, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. And like I mentioned to the listeners at the beginning, like, you're always helpful in the Facebook group that we are in together. I loved your presentation at Momentum with AI and repurposing. So let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of that.
Sure.
For someone that is new to repurposing, which hopefully they aren't, because I feel like I talk about it a lot, but if they are new to both of our worlds, why repurpose, and why take the time to set up that repurposing? Because I think part of that is what holds people back, is they're like, I either don't know how to get started, or it seems like more work than just creating new content. What would you say to someone who's having some of those thoughts? Yeah,
so like, being a creator is hard, and a lot of times we as creators, like, we're always like, okay, I got the blog post done, I gotta go do this now. And we don't stop and squeeze all the juice out of everything. And if you don't do that, the way the algorithms are built is people who even sign up for your stuff will not see it. So you can't just throw it up there one time and think it's done. And listen, you guys, the people listening to this, you're creators, you're good at this. Most people are not doing what you're doing. Like, if you go to your church or your like parent teacher organization and tell them what you're doing, nobody else is doing that. Nobody really is creating things. We're in this space, and Lindsay and I are kind of in this group where it seems like everybody's doing this and they've got all this and stuff. But most people on the planet don't do what creators are doing. And so we need to stop, take a breath, and squeeze all the content we can out of it, because that's the only way you're going to grow. I know it seems like you're being too pushy or too promotional or whatever, but you're really not, because the algorithms aren't going to let you do that.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so what are some easy ways that people can get started repurposing?
Well, both you and I love doing these video shows, because, and I have loved video all the way back to the Google Plus days, because I'm lazy, and it was easy to get. I got a video out of it, and I got the audio track. So there's a podcast right there. So, and then I would take the transcript, which is now easier than ever, and create a blog post out of that. And then you can make shorts and all this stuff with all these new AI tools. So it is way easier to repurpose. It seems like a lot when you're first starting and being new, but now with the technology, it is so much easier. Believe me, it's so much easier than it used to be. And taking the time and to stop, and I know you talk about processes on here a lot, and taking the time to set your foundations and stuff, that you just have to do that with your repurposing. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can start with one thing and then as you get that system and processes in place, you can add another network and just continue to do that. But a lot of things now will work in multiple places. And so I love podcast and video content because I just think it's an easy thing to do, and you get so much out of it when you're done.
Yep. Okay, so walk them through, if someone is trying to visualize, if this was going on for your show right now, what do you do with this video? Walk us
Okay,
through
so
your
for
process.
example, let's say,
what tools do you use? You can
Yeah. So I'll walk you through kind of my workflow and process. So Lindsay was just on my show. So as soon as the show is done, after I hit in program, we go, hey, this is great. You're awesome. Da, da, da. And then I upload it immediately to Descript. So everything now, and I'm an old school video audio editor. Like I was like on Premiere 2 or something like that back in the day. But everything now, and it's changed everything. Everything starts with the transcript. So I upload it to Descript. Descript does a transcript of my entire show. It actually, because I'm using Ecamm, I'm able to have separate tracks for both my audio and my video. So I upload those into Descript. It makes a transcript. I can edit stuff just like I'm editing Word. Will actually change what happens over in the video and the audio. I do all the edits with that. I export it as a podcast, and I add my intro and my outro to it. It's already on YouTube because I've already done it live, so it goes and it's already on YouTube. But then what I do, and it's really cool now because Descript has this find great clips, so I'm able to go find like 5 30-second clips of great stuff that Lindsay said, and I'm able to now take those and actually I've built templates inside of Descript where I can click one button and it will make me a 9:16 vertical video. Boom, it's done. I can upload that to Reels, to YouTube Shorts, to Pinterest, anywhere else, LinkedIn, anywhere else I need to. So it's done. So, and I can export the it does the captions for you. Because back in the day, we had to, do the stuff, download it, find another third-party program, upload it to something else, get the captions, and then download it again.
Yes.
You can do it all now in Descript. And so that's kind of my process. Everything starts with the transcript. Everything goes to Descript now. We have templates for everything. I click a button, export them. For the vertical videos, they go to a service called Repurpose.io. And I found that if I go, and it's almost like an if this, then that kind of thing that you can set up. So if you have, if you upload it one place, it kind of fires it off to everything else. I still click the button manually because I want to kind of change some of the way it's formatted. But so it goes up there. It's to TikTok first because that way everything else below that will remove the watermark, and so then it goes to like YouTube Shorts, Pinterest, Instagram Reels, and it just kind of, you can schedule it. We usually do it all in one day, and there we go.
Nice.
All of our clips are done.
Nice.
So.
And then do you do a blog post? Do you do an email with that? Do you do it down the road, or do you do it right away? What's your plan with that?
So we're usually for the podcast, we're usually a week behind, and then kind of like 3 or 4 days after that, after the podcast goes live, we kind of had the blog post go and tie everything together. I kind of like to have a little buffer, so it's, if I have something happen, I can do it. But we write a blog post off of that. We do use ChatGPT a little bit for that. My daughter Abby has kind of taken over all that, so she's doing a lot of writing on that. And for all my emails, so I do a Tuesday email, which is just kind of a general whatever I'm thinking of, some cool things I found, whatever. I don't use ChatGPT on those anymore. My thing is everybody's using ChatGPT for their emails, and I want to stand out, right? Yep. I want to look different. I want to be kind of unique, and I do the same thing for my Friday emails now. Is when I push the guests, come watch our live show. I write all those by hand. All the images are created with AI, which we have such a cool process about. That's a whole other show, but it's like we use Midjourney for that, and we have, if you look at our images, and they also are our reels, some of our Instagram images, they're all in this kind of 50s vibe, retro looking thing. It was like my slides I did it at Momentum. So we have that kind of nailed down, and so we're easily able to create with Midjourney whatever what we need to do. So we've entered a thing that, as a creator and a speaker, I have never been able to create a slide deck that was all mine. Like, I've always had to that's stock photo. Okay, that will kind of work in there. I'll use that. Now I can create custom images for everything. I can use it for B-roll during one of my shorts and just do a slow pan on it. I can find exactly what I'm trying to get across using AI. It's like, I don't know if you've ever had this, Lindsay, but a lot of times I would have something in my mind, but I didn't have the skills to create it in Photoshop or Illustrator. You know what I'm talking about? And so
I do. Yeah.
AI,
Happens all the time, actually.
yeah. AI generation is really cool because you can get most of the way there by using these AI tools.
Okay, so I've never actually played around with Midjourney. I remember
Yeah.
you showing us some of the stuff at Momentum. So you can do that for B-roll and for video and all that.
So you can do you can do an image, and then what I do for, like, I just make a static image and then I just pan in on it and pull away. So anything you can think about, you can use. It's great for covering a cut in your video. It's great for, like, if you're wanting to explain something and keep their attention. Now you don't have to go look for a stock video clip somewhere. You can make your own. And now there's even more tools now that can take those static images and animate them. So it's really, really cool. Things are moving at lightning speed.
I know. Okay, so let's move and talk a little bit more about the AI piece. What are some of your favorite AI tools? I know you've already mentioned a couple of them. Are there any that you haven't mentioned yet that you think us as business owners might want to look into?
So Midjourney for images is just, for me, the what really, really works well. Descript, I think I couldn't live without Descript. You give me Descript and ChatGPT, I can make anything work, right? Yeah.
And you
those
pay
are really
for ChatGPT, right? You don't
Yes, I
the
do.
free
And
version, you pay for it.
Yeah, and I pay for Midjourney as well because it gives me a commercial license. And I've never created written a prompt from an image and it gave me the first thing perfect. Like, you're always rolling, and so you kind of they give you like unlimited, like a slower process, which isn't bad at all, that I use so I can have unlimited images. Like, I can create as many as I want, and so I'm always drilling down for that. I'll tell you something that's probably brand new for your listeners. It's called Flux. It's actually open source, and they're calling it a Midjourney killer. I don't think it is, but it's open source and it's free. Now, you need a GitHub account, but just do a search for Flux, and a lot of people are impressed with it. And for now, it's free, and it's really, really cool for creating Midjourney level images.
Okay, very cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned Threads earlier. I'm curious. Are you on Threads?
I'm on Threads, but I don't use it. I don't really use a lot of things. I use Agorapulse, where I do a lot of social listening. So if somebody mentions me, then I can go. I'm notified. I can go in. That's my goal, is to do more YouTube and Threads. Is kind of my thing. I mean, you're on every platform and you post a lot of places, but I'm really active on like Facebook groups and then Instagram and some of those other places. But yeah, it's hard to be everywhere.
Oh, it is. It is. And I see your posts actually a ton on LinkedIn. But
Yes,
I'm
that's a great
assuming
one.
a lot of those are scheduled out.
So LinkedIn. So we have a queue with Agorapulse, and you mentioned repurposing. Like, I have over 200 clips, and I'm constantly cycling them, pulling out stuff that I don't think is evergreen anymore. But there's so much that is, and so a lot of people miss that, and those just get re-engaged, and my sponsors get clicks, and it's just really worth it for me to constantly putting those out. LinkedIn has been great for engagement. A lot of people watch the show over there. I get a lot of comments too. So LinkedIn is probably another big. I try to hit that like a couple times a day. So yeah.
Okay, if you could only be on one. All right, all of your sites. I know this is going to be a really hard question, including your podcast. If for some
It'd probably
reason,
be YouTube. It'd probably be YouTube. Because it's probably the second biggest search engine. Yeah. It is the biggest search. It's the second biggest search engine. So that would probably be the most bang for my buck. If I had to tell somebody to just do one, it would probably be that, because you can do podcasts and you can do your video and all sorts of stuff. So I would probably pick YouTube.
Okay. So if someone was starting on YouTube for the first time, which is more important, or are they both kind of equally important? Is it video quality? Because I've heard that a lot with YouTube, is that it's really important to have the fancy title and a nice edited video, yada yada, versus the SEO in the actual, like, it's not, is it called show notes over there?
Yeah, the description. I think those are important, but I think the biggest thing is your thumbnail. I think the thumbnails what gets people to clicking. From everything I've studied and read, is you have to nail your thumbnails. And then your thumbnails and titles are the biggest thing, because that's what gets people to click. your video quality, there's some really crappy videos that are 1 million plus. Like really there are. So I would, people will forgive bad video. They won't forgive bad audio. So I would make sure that your audio is on point for your videos, but then really study and nail your thumbnails and titles. There's a great new tool by Mr. Beast. He has a free version and also a paid version. I think it's called Video Stats or something. Just look up Mr. Beast's stat tool or something. And he has a great way where you can search what other thumbnails are doing and, what's popular and stuff. It's a really good tool.
Okay, cool. I love that. So in that way, it's sort of similar to how like a pin goes viral on Pinterest, right? Because Pinterest is very visual.
Yeah, it's a search engine as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the title.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the title and description is important, and the visuals are on Pinterest as well, and your boards. Pinterest, I've been in that thing forever, and I still don't know what they're doing.
Really? Is it kind of like
really?
the Wild
What
West?
is? Yeah. Well, it's just like, but you just said no hashtags, and now you're saying hashtags, and so I put hashtags, and now you're saying no, that will kill your reach. And I'm like, come on,
really?
Pinterest. Yes, they're always doing stuff like that. So, Pinterest is a long play. Like I would say, it's everybody's creating vertical content that works great on Pinterest. So repurpose everything you can over on Pinterest because it just is another link back to your content.
Yeah. The thing I've heard about Pinterest, and I don't know if this is true, that has stopped me, and I should just go and do it. I actually hired a VA to help me do this for a little while, and I wasn't seeing a ton of traction, I guess, when she was doing it, was that you have to go in and then repin other people's things as well.
That was old. That's old stuff. That's old
really? Okay.
SEO thing. Now it's and it used to be multiple pins pointing back to the same thing. It's not really that either. They want they want to have
new content.
Your stuff. Repinning doesn't do anything. I mean, if you want to, you can share it to a secret board. Group boards really, from what I've heard, aren't that great as they used to be, where you could find each other's content. So it's mostly what's showing up in the feed, and people are clicking on that. So you want to have a great looking image. You want to have, and Pinterest also can read your text on the pin. So it's very important. And I got so many fights about this. But everybody, remember, it's calmed down a little bit, but every like Instagram or Pinterest pin had all that scripty font that, that was like really lacy and like you could barely read it normally. Right. And Pinterest can't read it. So don't do that. Like make it clear so Pinterest can read it. So stuff like that. But yeah, it's a long game and it's worth putting out there. I still get a ton of traffic from Pinterest. Okay. So it's just not like you're going to do a Facebook post and get all these likes and reactions and all this stuff. Remember, it's a search engine, just like how it's hard to get your blog discovered and it takes time. And Pinterest is the same way.
Yeah, that's good to know. Because like I said, I was putting out the content, but I was like, man, I don't have time to be going in there and like repinning stuff, just kind of like for the point of repinning, even though I'm like, I don't really need to be repinning this right now. Right. I'm like, this strategy seems kind of silly.
But a lot of people leave a lot of stuff on the table where they're not pinning their reels or their images, their vertical images they create or stuff for their blog posts. So it's worth doing that.
Yeah, and I don't see a ton of video on there. So is that something that
it depends? So I see a ton because I like video. So you're training the algorithm, and you can do some stuff in the back end to fix that. But I see a lot because of that's what I'm interested in, and that's what the algorithm is showing me.
Okay, so interesting. I love how the algorithm. So I actually noticed on Threads, I was just on there. I'm not on there regularly either. Right. But I'm like, this algorithm is really good. Like it was showing me just stuff for like Disney adults, podcasters, Columbus, Ohio, and I'm like, how does it know all this stuff about like you know what I mean? Like I'm like, this algorithm, man, it's a good one. Yeah,
the TikTok and the Reels are pretty. I mean, their algorithms are pretty scary. That they can figure out that stuff. Yeah,
for real. Okay, how do you balance it all? Because you do a lot. Because we haven't even touched on your Amazon reviews that you do.
Oh yeah.
I feel like you're an affiliate for so many people, and like you said, so many connections. What does a typical day or week look like for Jeff? For someone's like, how does this man? I mean, he repurposes, like that saves times for sure, but you still got to have time to fit everything in.
So the best thing I did was hire my daughter. She's 24 to kind of help me with the repurposing, because I was doing it all myself, and it's hard. It really is.
Yeah.
I get it. So I would encourage people, as soon as they have any money, to reinvest in a VA or somebody who can help them do this stuff. But really think about what's going to get the biggest bang for your buck. Like, is it repurposing? Is it to hire somebody to edit videos? What is it going to be that will get you kind of to the next level?
Yeah.
I kind of take a page out of your book that you mentioned on my show, Lindsay, is that you like to do days. Like, this is a podcast day. Here's a video day. Here's my Amazon affiliate day. And so I try to do that. And like my mornings, I kind of have a morning routine that I always do. Like I said, I read and get all that stuff around. I have kind of a writing section in my day where I think I'm the most creative to do some writing. So, and like, this took me like 50 years to figure out. Like, so don't wait. like
you're like, get started.
Do what
playing around
Lindsay
with
said
this now.
early. Yeah. So instead of chasing after the rabbit and going in 1,000 different ways, say like, okay, today's my podcast day. I'm just going to focus on that. And for me, a podcast day means I got to get my podcast done. I got to edit guys. I got to get it to my sound designer. I got to do this. So it's very. You don't have to just work on one thing of your podcast, but it's podcast for me. Like, I do all the podcasts. I try to, and then like video. Like, okay, I've got to edit video, and then I've got to also shoot a video. Like, in our house now, it drives my family crazy. It's like, there's an Amazon package, we're doing an unboxing. Like, you can't open it until I get the camera, because I
would have loved if you would have been like, you can't open it till Thursday. Thursday's
That's
Amazon
right.
day.
That's right. A lot of times it can't, because we have a whole room of just stuff. Like, I need to have a garage sale, but but trying to figure out and also giving yourself grace, like, hey, I have still got to do this because I got this talk coming up, or I got to do this because this client, I got a new client, I need to work on onboarding. So it's giving yourself enough grace that, okay, I'm going to have to eat into my podcast day to do this because it needs to get done. And just like, that's okay.
Yeah,
so.
Figuring out your priorities too, and like making sure. I totally
and
get
then
that.
turn it off. Like, I have my phone in another room at night, so it's gone. Don't let clients scope creep, and you set limits. Like, man, after 5, it's over. Like, unless like your website is down or everything's deleted.
Emergency.
Yeah, I'm not here, right? So, and that's really hard when you're dealing with clients on different time zones, because I'm like my 5 o'clock's not California's 5 o'clock, and so I've had to do a little bit of education on some clients that way.
I love that, setting those boundaries. That was one thing that was big for me when I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. Why am I so overwhelmed? Like, what's going on right now? And then I realized, I'm like, oh, it's because I'm responding to messages at 9 o'clock at night. Like, I don't need to do this, right? Okay, conferences. I want to talk really briefly on conferences. Do you have some that you like to go to every year? What are your ones coming up? Because I think that is one of the pieces that is missing for a lot of people is they don't do that in-person networking or personal development. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking. I'm trying to get her really quiet down. But they're missing that piece. And I think that piece is so important for us because, like you said, I work in this room. Like, I don't necessarily get out and see people in real life all the time. So what are some of your favorites? What are some ones that you have coming up?
So the things that have changed my business the most are masterminds, which are amazing because we mentioned before, being creator is hard. No one else around you is doing it. And so being in those kind of groups where other people are like, yeah, I had to deal with the stupid taxes because I didn't know I had to do this. That kind of stuff is great to have those kind of people who understand you. Like, I could talk about some of the stuff, and everybody around me is like they work at Eastman Chemical, which is like engineers. They have no idea what I do. My wife barely knows what I do. And then the conferences are great just as people you've seen their avatars or in the comments of your shows or that you've been in the comments for their shows, being able to see them and talk to them and sit down and have coffee. It's just, it's a game changer. And it changes everything. Yeah. So the conferences that I try to go to every year, and I've told Lou this, I will go to your conference every year unless you kick me out. Like, that's, I love
keep
it.
Me away.
Right. I love, one, it's in Florida, and it's a vacation. But the smaller conferences I really like because I've never felt, I've spoken at some big stages at Social Media Marketing World, and it's great, and I love doing that. But you're not able to drill down, and I feel like I really help people. Like, one year after a momentum, the next year, a guy came up and said, yeah, I did what Jeff said, and it changed my business. I'm like, whoa. what? That's awesome.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's like okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So love the smaller ones. Momentum is one of my favorites. So if you've never been to Social Media Marketing World, it's a good one to go to.
Is that in California?
Yeah, it's in San Diego every year. Yeah.
Yep.
Some of the podcast meetups are great if you're a podcaster or wanting to do podcasts. That's what I did way back in the day. I went to Podcast Movement when I was just thinking about it, and that way I was able to plan what I was going to do and get some good advice from people. But Ecamp's Creator Camp is just so. They had the first one last year. I'm speaking again at it this year, and it is like a summer camp. Like I've never been to a conference like it. They take buses. You're in like cabins, quote cabins, and so you go around to different places around the Ecamm like community. Like with one's at a brewery, one's at a music store, and you have these really intimate workshops with your cabin, and you do real life stuff. And they have like events, like we went bowling. There's some people went to like a ghost walk at Salem. I mean, it was just crazy. You do all these different things, but it was just a fun. I've never been in a conference like that, and they limit it to I think 100 people, and it's amazing. So it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
now I'm having like major FOMO because I saw the dates, and I couldn't get off work because it's coming up, right?
Yeah, it's in October. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's like
Yeah.
2 weeks after Momentum, I think. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be nuts.
I was like, I
So-
couldn't go, and then my own retreat is the following week or the week
yeah.
after, so I didn't even click on it. But now I want to go click on the link and read about it.
Oh,
'cause
it's
that
so
sounds
you
so
need to go. You need to
fun.
go next year. Yeah, you need to go next year because there's great, really high level people teaching stuff, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh wow, I'm glad you shared that because now like my my gears in my head are like,
right, yeah.
You never know what ideas
That's right.
you can come up with, right?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. Okay, well, Jeff, before we tell everyone how to work with you, I have a few a few questions I like to ask my guests. One you kind of started to mention on, but do you have a morning routine, an evening routine, neither, both? What do they look like?
Yeah. So morning routine, I get up. I drink a lot of coffee, so I start the coffee.
Okay.
I do my prayer, meditation, and kind of devotion thing, and then I do reading. Like I read a lot, and mostly it's like Feedly, which I mentioned before, that I do a lot of reading in that. I do some writing. I started using Day One, which is a journaling app, and I've done it now for an unbroken streak for 3 years, which I'm really kind of proud of. Yeah. So, and sometimes it's just a paragraph. It's not like I'm writing a novel,
still.
but it's a good thing for me to do. And then I usually kind of check email and news, and then I like to keep like morning for me if I can, like until like later in the morning, and then hit the work. I have a 30-second commute, like I mentioned, to my little office out back.
Yeah.
And then at night, I pretty much. So my wife's a teacher, and she's been that way forever, and so I'm the cook. Like I do all the food. So I usually, it's been different because she's been off school, but usually I start dinner at like 4:30. We eat. A lot of times I'll come back and work a little bit longer, maybe till 7:30, and then I'm done. Like I put my thing in. I'll put my phone away because I don't like getting notifications. I have Do Not Disturb turned on, so my kids can get through, and that's about it. Like because even if you say to your clients you're not going to do something, if you open up for some reason your phone and you see a notification like, hey, that weighs on you. Like it just like, even though if it's not an emergency, but it's just like I'm gonna have to deal with that thing first thing in the morning, And so just not looking is something that you have to kind of train yourself to do. And then we watched maybe an hour of TV. The Olympics was crazy, so that was different. But we usually watch something together, and then because my kids are out of the house now, and then I try to go to bed like at 9:30 because I get up usually about 5. But I read. So morning is nonfiction, evening is fiction. So I read. I love to do my fiction book before I go to bed. So
what kind of fiction do you like to read?
Oh, I am very eclectic. Really, and he just came out with a new book. Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child do this Pendergast series. They've been doing it for a long time. I read that. I read just all sorts of stuff. Some sci-fi. I just whatever catches my eye. I'm not allowed to buy books anymore because we had way too many. So everything's on Kindle.
To have that rule.
Everything's on Kindle. So That's easy for me. But yeah,
I have a
that's me.
Kindle. I just like a paper version.
So my daughter's the same way, and I do too. But when you have thousands of books
know,
and you
I
want to
know,
buy more,
Jeff.
it's the only thing that she was like, no more. No, they were under the bed. They're in our
I know.
storage. So I'm like,
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
I actually
Here's another little power tip. So, especially for my morning routine, because I'm usually reading business books or something to do with something. In Kindle, if you highlight them, I use a tool called Readwise. What it does is it actually takes that, puts it to my Notion database, tagging that book, and it also will email me on a certain, I think I have it set for every 3 weeks. It sends me some of those quotes back, so they're always churning back in my brain.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so
Ooh, I love
that's
that.
the other reason for a Kindle is like, I like to highlight things. My wife will highlight stuff in normal books, and I just think that is so wrong. Like, I'm like, you just bought that book for yourself right there.
I
So,
know.
You know, anyway, so
I
I like
did
my
it in
Kindle.
college. I highlighted in books in college,
Right.
but like I don't do it education stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean? We didn't even talk about Notion. We didn't even go to that side of your systems. We'll have to have you
Yeah.
back on to
We'll
talk
do it
all
again.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question. Well, speaking of books, we'll just go there. Do you have a favorite business or personal development book, or sometimes it's hard for people to pick a favorite, so you can tell us what you're reading right now too. if you'd rather do that.
Well, this is the one I usually go to for when people ask me that question. I really like Creativity Inc. by the founder of Pixar. I think it's a great business book because, one, he talks about having to deal with creators, and also it's like the behind the scenes of how Pixar worked and got founded and all that kind of stuff. So Creativity Inc. was probably one of my favorite business books.
I don't even think I've heard of that. How have I not heard of this book?
It's the founder of Pixar. Like it's been out for a while, but it's really, really, really good.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm gonna go add that to my list not to buy as soon as we get off here, Jeff. to my
Exactly.
Kindle.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Last question. This is just for fun. What is a dream destination for you to travel to, or your favorite trip ever that you've done?
Oh, that's we're going to Italy for my son's wedding in October.
Oh,
so that's exciting because I
fun.
haven't been there. So that'll be fun because then we're going back and I'm doing a conference in Manchester in the UK.
Oh my
which
gosh.
is, yeah.
You're
So
super
I can
international
write off,
this fall. Yeah.
So I can write off my trip. It's pretty much the
Right.
thing. It's
Well,
like
hey,
half of my trip.
There we go.
So I got to go to London one time to speak. That was really, really fun. That was a good trip. But the one that I talked to Paul Gowder, and I really want to do an Alaska trip on the boats. I love cruising.
Yeah.
Probably I want to go to Australia. That's the bucket list.
Okay.
Australia is one of them.
When you
Yeah.
plan that, let me know because I can help you plan
All
that
right.
because I loved Australia. We went.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Oh.
2016, I think. And it was awesome. I keep trying to find reasons to go back. So I will send you all my tips when you're ready to go.
So do you like cruising? Have you done cruises?
I
A lot of
do.
cruises?
I just went on my first cruise December 2020. So it was,
Oh.
I think it was 2020. No, 2021. I don't know if they were cruising at December 2020. But anyway, long story short, it was still like at 50% capacity because of COVID.
Yeah, we did that too.
Yeah.
That was our
and
first
it
one
was
ever.
Really, yeah, same. It was our first
And,
one.
and
ever.
it really spoiled us.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
So it was great. And then we did the Alaska cruise last summer. And I think they were back at full capacity at that point. I think they were, but it was still Canada had some, like we had to get tested before we got on the boat. So there was still some stuff going on. But it was also awesome. So I've done one Caribbean that was a really short cruise, and then the 7-day Alaska. And I'm always looking for other ones to go on. Like I was trying to get my family to go on one this summer. It didn't work out, but I'm like, okay, then maybe at Christmas.
Yeah.
What about that?
This Italy thing kind of killed my cruising budget for this year.
Yeah.
But
worth
did you
it.
go? So all mine have been with Lou.
Oh,
So
okay. I've
I
never
did
done
my
a
first
Lou.
one with Lou. Oh, they're fun.
Yeah,
They're
I have
fun.
heard that. Again, though, they're school year trips.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
dang it, I don't, because if I want to do that, then I can't go to Momentum because also have to take a day
Yes,
off for
take time
that,
off, yeah.
or can't do.
So
Run
you just
Disney.
need to. you just need to keep growing and growing like you're doing, and then you can retire and then do whatever.
That's
you want,
exactly
you know?
that is the goal, Jeff. That is the goal.
Good.
That's
Good.
on the
Sounds
bucket
good.
list. Yeah, but and in case people don't know who we're talking about Lou Mangello. He hosts the Momentum. He has a retreat. He has a weekend, and so Jeff and I will both be there. So if you want to join us and hang out with us for the weekend, at the time of recording, he still has spots left. It's just loumangello.com/momentum. You can find out about that. I don't have an affiliate link or anything. I should, but yeah, join us there. He's got a great community. That's how Jeff and I connected. And Jeff, you're speaking this year, right?
Yeah. So I've spoken the last 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So we talking a lot about some of the same stuff, a lot of the repurposing with AI, because it changes so much, and there's so many new cool tools that come. So yeah, it'll be exciting times.
Awesome. All right, Jeff, how can we connect with you, follow you? And I will have all this in the show notes too, everyone, so you can just click on it and not have to remember all the things.
Right. So you can follow me at jeffsieh.com, and it's spelled Jeff. S is in Sam, I-E-H, I before E, especially in C. That's how my mom taught me to say it. We do, and Lindsay was on it, every Friday at 10 a.m. Central, we do a show on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. It's multicast all those different places. It's called Social Media News Live, soon to be Creator News Live. We're renaming it, doing some new branding for that. Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, and if you want to see, I'm constantly updating it because there's new tools coming out. But if you go to jeffsieh.com/toolbox, you'll get access to all the tools that we mentioned today. Some other ones that we may have not gotten to, but a lot of AI stuff, a lot of software. Everything I use to run my business. So you can check that out at jeffsieh.com/toolbox.
Yeah, guys, you want the toolbox. I forgot about the toolbox, and I downloaded it when you released it for the first time, and it's freaking awesome. It's one of the best free resources out there. So definitely make sure you do that, and I will put that in the show notes. And Jeff, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate you here, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
So welcome.